The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
And good evening. This is Ted Hicks, Late Night Parents. You can find me on Twitter, Real Ted Hicks, or Late Night Parent. The website is latenightparents.com. For those of you that are lazy, like myself, lnp.tv will get you to our website. You can also find us on facebook.com/Late Night Parents. So I'm back after a 2-week. Is it a 2-week absence? 1 week absence? But I want to thank Dr. Michelle and Rich Valdez for hosting the show last week. And I heard the show immediately right after they aired it. I was in Baltimore attending the Raiders versus the Ravens. And yes, Silver and Black is alive again. And well, about 30% of the stadium had Raiders jerseys on, believe it or not. I was there with my good friend Kenny Lowe. We went down there because he's a Raiders fan. And I think I'm about to be a converted Raiders fan because the Jets keep messing around. But that's another segue or segment for another show. Want to thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening live, 1240 AM WGBB, or you're listening to the podcast, because we are distributed by the best radio partners in the world. Want to thank good friends Val Vandenberg and Associates, blogtalkradio.com/late. I'm about to say Late Night Parents. blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network. Life Improvement Radio. Want to thank you guys for playing us. UNR1, Arena Sports Network, I-95 Sports Network, Mile High Radio, and of course our friends across the pond, XRP Radio in the UK. I pull this stuff up and I see people are listening to the show in the UK. They're downloading the show. I mean, it almost brought a tear to my eye. No, I really didn't. Too much of a, egomaniac for something like that. But want to thank the folks that distribute the show. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my good friend 9-0, the under.us, the underground. Plays our shows on Thursdays and Saturdays, 12 p.m. Central. And last but not least, want to give a big shout out to our friends at AMFM247.com that play our show Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Most of these shows that are distributed, it's online, on the internet, through their specific browser or on their websites. But when you start to talk about traditional radio, it's 1240 AM WGBB. I want to thank the folks here that allow us to air the show. I want to give a big shout out to my friend CJ Computers in North Carolina. See, you thought I wouldn't shout you out, huh? I want to thank our friends also, Verizon Fios, that sponsor the show. Thank you guys for all that you do for supporting this. I like to call it a movement. Before I get too much into myself, I want to sit here for a minute and say, let's look at what's transpired in the last 72 hours. If we look at the last week, beginning of the week, it was all about Odell Beckham Jr. and whether he's a diva, he's crying, he's doing this, he's getting hit in the face with a fence with the Nets. But the latter part of the week was about Donald J. Trump. Whew. There's a debate that's going on tonight. HRC versus Trump 2. Out there in St. Louis, I believe. So we're going to talk about that. Couple of discussion items we're going to talk about tonight. Little light on guests because we have our friend, Dr. Michelle, will be calling in shortly. She just ran the Chicago Marathon today, 26.2 miles, and she's going to be joining us first up in the queue. Right after that, I think I'm going to talk about how to teach your child to handle emergencies without scaring them. You know, all during the week we heard about Hurricane Matthew. And we heard about, it's coming. If you're in the southeast, you have a lot to be worried about. There are evacuation notices. But how do you tell your children about this? We're going to get into that in the second segment. Third segment, we're going to talk Hillary and Donald Trump. And in the final and fourth segment, my good friend Marc Lewis will be here to join me to talk a little NFL. How you like that? A friend of 25, almost 30 years. I mean, we talk NFL all the time, but there's a couple of hot topics that are out there that I wanted to get his hot take on it in our rapid fire segment. So we're going to go to a quick break, and then once we come back, hopefully Dr. Michelle.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late night parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late night parents. That's audibletrial.com/late night parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late night parents.
If you like your radio a bit on the fantastic side, try listening to the Happy Hour Network on Blog Talk Radio. The Happy Hour Network features live shows such as Late Night Parents with Ted Hicks, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with Ted, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell, The Seahawks Show with Kevin Daggett, and NBA Full Court Press with Danny Thompson. You can also catch podcasts like The Fwat Show, The Earnestly Speaking Podcast, Cinema Savants, and The Tennis Scene, found at blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network. The Happy Hour Network, radio worth listening to.
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.
I am loving my Verizon FiOS. In fact, I recently joked that if we move, we have to find a place with FiOS coverage. To my surprise, our family actually agreed. Not only is FiOS the fastest internet service, it also has never been down, with the exception of when Storm Sandy hit us. And indeed, only FiOS gives you the same speed uploading for your files, photos, etc., as it does downloading, as in HD movies. Cable cannot offer you this, only FiOS. So go ahead, make a very smart choice with Verizon FiOS.
And we're back. This is Ted Hicks, Late Night Parents. Back for another show that has no name to a specific theme. I guess it's debate night. I don't know. I mean, usually there's some type of theme that's going on where I'm sitting and thinking about it in depth. I don't know. It was just one of those weeks where I was kind of searching for a theme, where I'm looking at maybe a couple of my favorite TV shows, and I'm like, it usually helps me, but unfortunately not this week. So I don't know. I'll just leave it there. I want to thank my good friend Anne Murray at amurraypr.com, because she was kind enough to send me along, knowing that our presidential hopefuls will be discussing, round 2 in about less than 90 minutes from now. What she did was she sent me some information on some apps and games, that you could download to avoid, mistakes of speeches past. We'll go through it really quick. Hillary's top apps. Slang It. Hillary's dabbed and dabbing, along with everyone else. I think Cam Newton kind of made it pretty popular or oversaturated. But we know how super awkward that can become. And if she really wants to reach millennials, the Slang It app translates entire slang phrases from the youth. So here's a person that's, in their late 60s. You want to reach those folks that are under, 35. You go to slangit.com. The second app is usedust.com. Thanks to this app, which erases text messages permanently from a server, well, that would be good for Hillary. She will never have to live in fear of security breaches. Now, if only Anthony Weiner had known about this app. That app is usedust.com. Some must downloads for Donald Trump. The first one for him is Headspace. This app provides guided meditation and mindfulness, something Trump could use to keep calm and stop fidgeting. Of course, there's Family Search, familysearch.org. The next time Trump wants to doubt someone's heritage, a quick tap on this app is sure to fact check his claims. Of course, there's Personal Capital. With an empire to manage as Donald Trump manages, this app can help Trump track how funds are spent and whether he's staying on top of his taxes. And the last one is Frozen Frenzy Mania. What's a better way for Trump to learn about global warming than by venturing through the tasty tundra with Piper the penguin and her adorable companion Rollo the seal? And that sounded kind of weird, but those are some apps that our good friends at Mary PR sent to me in regards to tonight. I know we're going to have Dr. Michelle in the queue momentarily. And I know she just ran a marathon today, so I will be super duper lenient. With that, if I could just talk real quickly about how to teach children to handle emergencies without scaring them. I mean, because over this past week, really for the past week and a half, I mean, this was a media-enriched week, if you think about it. There was so much going on back and forth. Tapes were being released. Julian Assange with WikiLeaks, emails supposedly were being released. So there's a lot of that's going on. But along with it was Hurricane Matthew. And it's a touchy subject. We know that in the New York area from dealing with Sandy, prepping for it. We knew about it way in advance. So the question is, the folks in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, they were rocked, along with after seeing the damage what this hurricane did in Haiti. So you get to the point of, how do you teach your child or children to handle emergencies without scaring them? Basically without scaring the bleep out of them. Hang on 1 second. So discussing possible emergency scenarios with one's child is never a pleasant topic. Parents do not want to frighten or create new anxieties. So you have to ask that question, how to approach an emergency preparedness that won't freak your children out. You got to tell children an emergency is something unusual that happens, which could hurt people or cause damage to things like your home and or your car. You got to explain to them that the nature itself sometimes provides too much of something like rain, wind, or snow. Talk about the effects of the emergency that children can relate to, such as the loss of electricity or water or telephone service, flooded roads, and uprooted trees. Explain that everyone is better, able to take care of themselves in emergencies when they know what to do. So first, you teach your children the difference between a problem and an emergency. A problem is something that they need help with, but does not require emergency services. An emergency is a situation that requires immediate assistance from the police or the fire department, or requires immediate medical assistance through paramedics or EMTs. When your child experiences a problem, he or she should decide whether to call you immediately, call a neighbor, or whether the problem can wait until you get home. For example, you probably want your child to call you if he or she felt scared, had trouble getting into the house, got home and found that the electricity was off. The following issues warrant an immediate call to 911. A fire, evidence of a break-in, a medical emergency, such as someone being unresponsive or bleeding profusely. What do you have to do? The first thing you do is step one, you create that communication plan. So all in all, you got to make sure the lines of communications are open. So you have to teach your child one parent's cell phone number or a good contact number. Starting at around age 5, children are developmentally ready to memorize a 7 or 10-digit number. Practice with your child and turn the phone number into a song, like a modified version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Designate an out-of-state contact. This will be a resource and a point person for your family to call. Choose a location other than your home where your family can meet. You'll need to go there in case of a fire or an earthquake or a hurricane, for example. So let's just say this. Your meeting place might be a local park or school or shelter. Walk to the site with your child so he or she knows exactly how to get there. You have to designate a trusted friend or a family member who can pick up your kid at childcare or school if you are unable to get there in a disaster situation. You got to be sure that you give official permission to release your child to that person. You got to make a card with a plan for each adult's wallet. Include contact names, your emergency location, the out-of-state contact number. Put a copy in your school-age child's backpack, and most importantly, you got to discuss this plan with your kids. You have to inform the caregivers and nearby relatives of your plan. Be sure to give a copy of your plan to your child teacher too. If you're not good at texting, you got to improve on those skills, because what we were just talking about in the last segment, it's all about millennials, and it's all about nowadays you might find yourself texting more than actually having that conversation, because that's what kids nowadays are comfortable with. And as strange as that sounds, Yes. You gotta, what worked for us, or myself, I would say, I'm in my mid-40s, what worked 20, 30 years ago, it's not going to work today. You got to upgrade some of those skills. So when a cell phone signal strength goes down, texting often still works because it uses less bandwidth and network capacity. I mean, think about it. If you look at your plan on any service that you have, there's voice and there's data. Everyone needs to know about calling 911 in an emergency. Kids also need to know the specifics about what an emergency is. Asking them questions like, what would you do if we had a fire in our house? What would you do if you saw someone trying to break in? Gives you a chance to discuss what constitutes an emergency and what to do if one occurs. Role-playing is especially a good way to address various emergency scenarios and give your kids the confidence they'll need to handle them. For younger children, it might also help to talk about who the emergency workers are in your community. I mean, and this is stuff that your children are going through, hopefully in school, if not daily, then weekly. Police officers, firefighters, paramedics, doctors, nurses, and so on. And what kinds of things what do they do to help people who are in trouble? This will clarify not only what types of emergencies can occur, but also who can help. And most importantly, when do you call 911? I think we would only call 911 when there's a specific emergency. And that's the part of the understanding, is knowing what an emergency is, knowing what is not. A fire, an intruder in the house, an unconscious family member, these are all things that require a call to 911. A skinned knee, a stolen bike, or an agreement with a schoolmate would not. Still, teach your child that if ever in doubt, there's no adult around to ask, make the call. But it's much better to be safe than sorry. We have to make sure our children understand that calling 911 is not a joke. And that's regardless what Flavor Flav has said, a few years ago. It's a crime and in many places. So in some cities, officials estimate that as much as 75% of their calls made to 911 are not emergency calls. These are not all pranks. Some people accidentally push the emergency button on their cell phones. Others don't realize that 911 is for true emergencies, not for such things as a flat tire or even about a theft that occurred a few weeks ago. There's a big difference. There's 911. Within the city limits, there's 311, there's 411. Of course, on your local voice provider service, there's 611, but 911 is really strictly for emergencies. You got to work out that home evacuation plan. Now, this is a topic that my friends and I talk about in the chat room all the time. In the event of a fire or a natural disaster, your family will need to have a coordinated evacuation plan to ensure that everyone makes it out of the house safely. It's important to explain to your child that all material possessions, even the favorite ones, can be replaced, and that it's far more important for them to exit the house than to save their belongings. Make sure that he or she knows how to get out of the house if you're not able to reach her, or make it a way to have a prearranged family meeting place, and what he or she should do if they arrive first. Discuss region-specific natural disasters. You probably won't need to waste much time on teaching a child that lives in the Midwest how to manage a hurricane, but he or she would need to know what to do in the event of a tornado. Talking about natural disasters that are most likely to occur in your area and making a specific plan to deal with them is imperative, especially if you live in a region that's particularly prone to environmental emergencies. You have to role play specific scenarios. One of the best ways to determine how much your child knows And what they need to learn about emergency preparedness is to role play, especially scenarios that, he or she could potentially encounter. That's a reason why public schools practice routine fire drills. They help children prepare in relatively low-stress environment for an emergency so that in a high-pressure situation, they know how to react. Role-playing serious injury situations, weather emergencies, and a house fire, and even potential intruder situations give you an idea about what your children knows and helps you to teach them more detailed information so that they're prepared to handle any emergency. After the emergency, there's a time for recovery. Immediately after the emergency situation, try to reduce the child's fear and anxiety. Keep the family together. So while you look for your housing and assistance, you may want to leave your children and relatives or friends. But instead, keep the family together as much as possible and make children a part of what you're doing to get the family back on its feet. Children get anxious. They'll worry that their parents won't return. Explain what will happen next. For example, say, tonight we will all stay together in the shelter. You have to emphasize, get down to the child's eye level and talk to them. You have to encourage children to talk. Let children talk about emergencies and ask questions as much as they want. Encourage children to describe what they're feeling. Listen to what they say. If possible, include the entire family in the discussion. Most importantly, include children in recovery activities. Give children chores that are their responsibility. This will help children feel, that they're part of the recovery. Having a task that will help them understanding that everything will be all right. That's overall. I want to thank our friends at comprehendthemind.com on how to teach children how to handle emergencies without scaring them. We'll be posting this article on Late Night Parents because it is so important in this, in this day and age that we're dealing with. I'm not sure where to begin with that because, it's a very serious situation. I remember specific times like, in the Northeast, we're not used to it. But, for those folks that are living in Florida, this is the norm. This is the norm for those folks that are in South Carolina and North Carolina, and even in, certain parts of Virginia where you have to prepare yourself. So with that, we're going to go to our next break, and we'll come back real briefly with Dr. Michelle.
I am loving my Verizon FiOS. In fact, I recently joked that if we move, we have to find a place with FiOS coverage. To my surprise, our family actually agreed. Not only is FiOS the fastest internet service, it also has never been down, with the exception of when Storm Sandy hit us. And indeed, only FiOS gives you the same speed uploading for your files, photos, etc., as it does downloading, as in HD movies. Cable cannot offer you this, only FiOS. So go ahead, make a very smart choice with Verizon FiOS.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents. That's audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late-night-parents.
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.
If you like your radio a bit on the fantastic side, try listening to the Happy Hour Network on Blog Talk Radio. The Happy Hour Network features live shows such as Late Night Parents with Ted Hicks, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell, The Seahawks Show with Kevin Daggett, and NBA Full Court Press with Danny Thompson. You can also catch podcasts like The Fwat Show, the Earnestly Speaking Podcast, Cinema Savants, and The Tennis Scene, found at blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network. The Happy Hour Network, radio worth listening to.
And we're back for segment 3. This is Late Night Parents. This is Ted Hicks. Ways to listen to the site. Ways to listen to the show. 1240 AM WGBB. Our website is latenightparents.com. We just talked about handling emergencies with your children without scaring them. Probably one of my better segments. I don't know. I got to chop that one up. I'm waiting to hear from our good friend, Dr. Michelle. She is on Central Time right now, I believe. And so I was telling her, call in at, the 30-minute mark. And I forgot to mention that we're on Eastern Time, so she might have reverted. I'm not sure. I just wanted her to check in. But even if she doesn't want to check, even if she doesn't get the chance to check in, wanted to congratulate her on completing the marathon today. Oh, my goodness. So I'm getting a text message. Oh, goodness. She's calling in right now. That has to be my buddy. That has to be my buddy right now, calling in, speaking with Brian right now. And I think she is virtually in the building. Dr. Michelle, how you doing?
Hi, how are you doing, Ted?
Pretty good. How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm doing fine.
Oh, my goodness. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. I am very good. I finished the marathon. I did much better than what I did for New York City Marathon. And I took an ice bath once I got back to the hotel. And we're just out to dinner now, just enjoying ourselves and having a good time.
Oh, perfect. I do want to let you know, when you do come back to the studio, Brian and I were sitting in here cracking jokes because he wanted to know whether or not he was like, maybe she fell asleep. I'm not sure,
No. Since I'm in Chicago, we're in Central Standard Time.
Yes, I forgot.
I set my watch back.
Oh, my goodness.
I am so sorry for the delay.
No, please. Not at all. Well, tonight was really just a check-in. Wanted to make sure. you were doing well. I know you'll be coming back tomorrow, or you'll be coming back very, very soon, but...
Yes, I'll be back tomorrow, and then I'll be in the studio on Sunday with you again, unless you're kicking me out.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. As you know, you're always welcome. Always welcome. So, wanted to say congratulations. We won't hold you long. And just really just want to know, out of everything that you've gone through in the last, 24 to 48 hours, what was the one thing that was on your mind when you were at that point, or were you ever at that point where you're like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to finish this? Or were you kind of like, I'm just going to push along?
Well, you know what? I don't think I was ever at that point, because I have a friend who's here, and she was very supportive. Yesterday, she took me via the L to the starting point, so I knew exactly where my corral was, and we mapped out how we were going to get there, what time we were going to arrive, and then at the same time, I knew exactly the route because she showed me the finish line and where I was going to meet her. So I felt comfortable, and as we were driving yesterday, she showed me the different roads that I was going to be running on. So I felt really comfortable about the run. And at the same time, she met me at several points just to check in, say hi, make sure I had, enough water and things like that. So that made me feel really good. And at the same time, I am a Christian. And at the starting line, one of the guys that I met, he posted on Facebook Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which is like my favorite verse.
Philippians 4:13.
Yes. And throughout the entire race, there were many signs as far as physical signs that were there, that were made up, T-shirts, there were balloons that had the same Philippians 4:13. So that really helped me to know that I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there, and I was going to finish.
You got it.
Without any doubt.
You got it.
And at the same time, just like anything, I had good training, and I was doing what my coach had suggested I do. And, I had more in me at the end, but she had wanted me to run it a certain way, and I stuck to the plan. So I felt very confident. So I knew I was going to finish, without a doubt. And, of course, when I come into the studio on Sunday, I'm going to wear my medal. So you can see it. I'll let you hold it.
Well, what's most important is you had all of Team Fit Doc on Long Island holding you down, as you can see, sending you screenshots of sangria and little JPEGs and inspirational videos as we were all just relaxing, watching TV while you were...
Yeah, no, but that was fine. That was fine. And then I was sending my pictures to make sure everybody knew where I was.
That's perfect. That is perfect. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, and I thank everyone for their support and their prayers.
Definitely. As always. Well, like I said, the best thing about this was you were able to go there. You finished. I'm sure you were feeling great, because it's not like, you started running yesterday. You've been preparing for this. And you had your support system near and far.
Yes.
Helping you along the way. So we're all extremely proud, and we will be taking pictures next week.
That's no problem. I look forward to it. You might even throw in a video. Oh wait, are you going to be in the studio next week, or you're away?
Good question, but I think I'm going to be here. I mean, especially if you're coming with the medal, because I think at some point I'm going to hold the medal and act like I ran the race.
That's fine.
Oh,
that's
my
no
goodness.
problem at all.
That is so good. So, all right.
Yes. And I was going to say, and then the runners of Chicago, they're very, very supportive. So, matter of fact, I'm out to dinner with a couple that I met, and they really, as soon as they found out that I was coming to Chicago from day one, they made sure that I felt comfortable and that everyone knew that I was coming. So I think that was very important, too.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I think things are so much better. I mean, a lot of people have a lot to say negatively about social media, but there's some great things about it. People that you can
definitely
meet. You know, when social media is done the right way,
Yes.
you know, it's like sky's the limit.
Yes. Most definitely, because when I ran into mile 20, I said, "Oh, I'm from New York," and they're like, "Oh, you're the doctor from New York that we were told to expect. How are you doing? Do you need anything? Do you need a massage? Do you need a roller? Do you need some food? Do you need something to drink?"
Wow.
And my reply to them was like, "I need a new set of legs."
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Well, that's perfect. Like I said, it's good to hear your voice, and it's good to hear that you're not just like, hello, yes, I'm here, I made it. You sound like your usual self.
Yes.
And that's great to hear. Like I said, so excited for you to come into the studio next week so we can work together. And I guess I'm gonna have to log into Facebook tonight to see that picture of that medal. Did you post it already?
You know what? I didn't even post anything. I was in such a hurry to get back to the hotel to do my ice bath so we could go out to eat that I didn't even post the medal yet.
Okay.
So I have to take a picture and post that in a little bit.
Got you. So as we close this out, you ran a 26.2 mile marathon.
Wait, 26.2.
26.2.
Yes.
And what's the Monday? What's your Monday motivation?
Wake up, have breakfast, and get a massage. And then have brunch with one of my other friends who is from New Jersey but is visiting in Chicago. And I was going to say it's been an amazing experience because 3 different people from the East Coast are in town, and I was able to hook up with hopefully all 3 of them by the time I leave.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
So that was really good because especially, everyone is very busy with their family and jobs, and the fact that we were all in the same city at the same time is very special.
That's excellent, Dr. Michelle. You are an inspiration for many, because you got to keep doing what you're doing. You really do.
Well, I'm only an inspiration if people actually go ahead and follow through with putting a plan in action.
That's true.
Otherwise, I'm someone they admire.
That is true. You do have to put the plan in action. You give me something. You always give us like a little jewel to think about. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So hey, tell us. I know you're getting ready to go out to dinner.
I'm already at dinner.
Oh, you're already there. Okay. But tell us best ways to get in contact with you. Tell us about your practice, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
Okay, so the best way to reach Dr. Michelle is through www.askdrmichelle.com. That's www.askdrmichelle.com. And the office can be reached. We have 2 locations in Garden City and Rosedale, Queens. It's 516-794-2200. That's 516-794-2200, and that's extension 8. And the name of the practice is MS, as in Mary, and Sam, Family Medicine Healthcare PC.
Dr. Michelle, as always, thanks so much for joining us this week.
All right, and have a great show.
Got it.
And I'll see you on Sunday with the medal.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was our friend, Dr. Michelle, joining us. As you know, she has a weekly segment. But now we're into the last segment. Before we close this thing out, we want to talk a little NFL. There's a lot of people that call themselves aficionados. Whether they're on TV, whether they're on the internet. But I've got someone on the line, my good friend Marc Lewis, who knows about the NFL very well. I know Sports Talk 1240, right, the show that's right behind me. Those are folks that know about the NFL also. But I wanted to introduce to some and, get out the way as I introduce you to Marc Lewis. Marc, how you doing?
I am doing well. Finally, doing well. Had a long day, but doing well. Thanks for that intro.
Come on. We're going to do it very quickly, rapid fire section with you because very knowledgeable. I've spoken with you over the last 25 years about various sports-related topics, business-related topics, technology-related topics. Couple of questions I want to ask you. At the beginning of the week, the only thing, towards the tail end of the week, everyone's talking about, Trump this, Trump that, and video recordings and saying inappropriate things and, sexual assault and stuff like that. But at the beginning of the week, everyone was talking about Odell Beckham Jr. I got to ask you, diva or not?
He is diva, but he is a special kind of diva. He's like, I guess, the 2016 diva. Maybe, Terrell Owens, Des Bryant, Michael Irvin to the 45th power in 2016, I guess. This is kind of something we've seen it, but we've seen it in different forms before. I don't know if we've seen the tears flowing like the last 2 weeks, and he's definitely got some issues bottled up that he's channeling some of the defensive backs around the league for whatever reason. I understand his frustration with not getting balls in the first the first couple of quarters in the first couple of games, right? He's supposed to be the man, but this is a kind of a new thing that we're seeing now. It's a little far-fetched, ridiculous, I would say. So, diva, definitely, the 2016, he's the head of the class, HNIC diva, whatever you want to, think about when you think of diva. He's definitely supplanted all of the predecessors when you think of wide receivers and defensive backs to an extent. But more wide receivers because they're so used to getting the ball. But when you think of any predecessor of a diva, now he is the definition of the wide receiver diva.
Want to briefly talk to you about the NFL and their lab rat experiment. And the lab rat experiment is the Colts played in the UK last week, and they had to play. This was the first time ever a team played in the UK and didn't experience a bye week. Do you think something like this is going to be the new norm?
I think, you know what? I think, General Goodell and whatever his soldiers authorize is going to be the new norm, regardless of what, the 32 NFL teams and or owners think. I know that there is this goal, this decision to kind of branch out into Europe, and that's coming whether we like it or not, right? And for the most part, it's coming. And it's no issue, but the Colts, having to travel back with no bye week, that's got to be. Anybody who's been on an airplane before for longer than 3-4 hours, just a regular-sized person for 3-4 hours knows how stressful air travel is like. So now you multiply that by the fact that we're dealing with superhuman, super stressed guys, 6'5", 300 pounds, in these big airplanes going across the pond, 7-8 hour flights, back and forth. Anyone can relate to the jet lag, the tiredness, the just everything. And I think it's an accelerated ploy to push for an eventual NFL franchise over there. And I don't think it's going to, whether the players don't like it, the coaches don't like it, I think that we're on that path to where we're going to see that a lot more often in the next few years. I don't think there'll be any more bye weeks in between. This is just me. I'm a betting man. If I was a betting man, I would say we wouldn't see that anymore going forward in any more NFL seasons.
True or false? Jerry Jones is laying the smackdown on his players and telling them you need to stand for the national anthem.
I want to say false. And I've seen reports where Jerry hasn't said definitively that he didn't make that statement, and he's also made some statements that he's kind of partial and he's heard everything that's been going on with the protests, and he's amenable to the folks that do it on other teams. But I got to say true. That's they named that state. They named that state Jerry's World for a reason, right? It's Jerry's World down there, and anybody that gets out of line is going to get even though he has a long leash for players that have went a different way and on their second and third lifeline in the league, he's putting a smackdown on them. You got to believe that.
The sagging NFL ratings. It's the story that no one really wants to talk about. The greatest sport in the world, the billionaires that, continue, well, I'll put it there, the greedy billionaires that are trying to give you what was originally Sundays and Mondays, as extended to Thursdays. And, of course, towards the end of the season, I think for week 16 and 17, you're going to see some games on Saturday. You got the Americans here in the States going crazy over, the 16-week regular season and, of course, the playoffs. Give us your interpretation of why the ratings are sagging.
Well, the NFL is a monster. Everybody knows that. I mean, you and I growing up kind of in New York, being that I'm a supplanted New Yorker, I'm now in the D.C. area. We kind of grow up, anyone that grows up in New York, it grows up with at least 4 sports, right? Just the requisite 4 sports.
Right.
Baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. Whether you like it or not, you're going to choose a team that, out of those sports, you're going to have a team. And we've seen over the last, 25, 30 years, the NFL kind of shoot to the top, right? They've been at the mountaintop for probably about 10 years now, at least, right? Ever since.
Correct.
You could probably align it with the advent of the no free agency and the franchise just doing so well and everything else kind of just spiraling off of that. The TV contracts, the ESPN, Monday Night Football, the cables taking away of the football primarily now on their networks in the week, and it used to be just the CBS, NBC, ABC for all of those born in the 70s and before.
Right,
but
right.
now it's pretty much an every week thing. Well, here's the thing: the ascent over the last 15, 20 years was a great one and a successful one for the NFL. I think now what you're seeing is the other sports, the NBA in particular, kind of creeping up on the NFL with a lot more of their kind of marketing ploys. I don't want to say ploys, but back in the 90s with the Jordan, right after the Magic and the Bird, their marketing was spot on. I think the thing is, the NFL is at the mountaintop now.
Right.
And when you're at the mountaintop, a lot of times you get complacent. And you have the other leagues kind of trying to play catch-up. They've set the tone, and now you got the other leagues kind of chomping at the bit and clawing at the NFL's feet, and they're making some progress. The other thing is, with the NFL, you've got, the last few years, this notion that it's almost like a dictatorship. And that has also resonated with the fans. You've got the Goodell, holding all the cards when it comes to discipline, and I think that's kind of rung a little hollow with some of the NFL hardcore fans. The various things that have happened with the Patriots over the last few years. The Spygate issue, the Deflategate issue. And then here's the most important thing, right? I think we had a movie about it just recently, is the concussion issue. That has rang true. And here in this area, in the D.C. area, you have high school football teams, prominent high school football teams, not playing football because they've had safety concerns on their high school players getting hurt with concussions. That's a tremendous issue that, even though it's been in the forefront for a while, that concussion issue has kind of resonated with folks, and a lot of the former players that have went through it. Those are issues that can have a long-term, if not shorter-term, effect on the descent of the ratings. I mean, I know we love the violence and we love it. The NFL has basically become a 4-day-a-week, 3 to 4 day a week holiday.
Yes.
For most of us.
Yes.
But the hits that folks are taking, and I know they've instituted rules this year and that sort of thing, whether the definition of the rules are gray here and there remains to be seen. But those concussion issues and people not wanting their children to play, hence people not letting their children watch, hence all of the Goodell issues and kind of this dictatorship with the NBA and the other things, all of these things have had not immense impact, but I think you'll start to see the NBA and the NFL kind of creep up. And it won't be the next 5 years, it won't be the next 10 years, it'll probably be over 20 years.
Gotcha.
The NFL they've gotten on that peak, and they're going to, for lack of better words, start to decline, and the gap is going to be a little bit lessened with the NBA and other sports based on a lot of those issues. I'm still
Marc, we're going to have to wrap up. Marc, I want to thank you because we got to have you come back in the next upcoming weeks because this is too good. We want to thank everyone who listened to Late Night Parents tonight. Next week we have Michael Butner, who's going to be joining us to talk about PTSD. All the best. We'll see you next week. Continue to make the moves and make a difference.
The views expressed in the previous program did not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.